me.
The chilling words of child killer Lindsay Clancy, front and center at her murder trial.
I feel horribly guilty about my marriage. I want to connect with Pat again. I know he needs it. I need it. I'm terrified because I'm terrified of the relationship.
Diary entries hint at a troubled relationship.
The chilling words of child killer Lindsay Clancy front and center at her murder trial. It's like I'm so desperate to get a mental break from taking care of everyone that my mind is trying to make something physically wrong with me. That is Exhibit A. Not a police report, not a 911 call, but a diary entry. And before you hear another word of testimony, picture this: a spiral notebook left open on a kitchen counter, next to a chopping board with celery cut into perfect 1-inch squares. The handwriting is neat, deliberate. The woman who wrote in it had already told her husband she wanted to die. The notebook was not hidden. It was sitting there, waiting to be read. The paperwork already knew.
I also feel like I did it wrong because I did it when he was overtired, so I made it harder. I now have horrible insomnia and anxiety, which is causing depression. I have no appetite. I don't know what's wrong with me. I want help.
Before we go deeper into what the documents actually show, make sure you're subscribed to Trial&Crime, because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence. Now, the journal entry continues. I now have horrible insomnia and anxiety, which is causing depression. I have no appetite. I don't know what's wrong with me. I want help. I want to be well. That is not the language of concealment. That is a flare shot into the dark by a woman who, according to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, was of sound mind, calculating, meticulous, and fully criminally responsible for 3 counts of first-degree murder.
Namely the fact that Lindsay doesn't deny that she killed her kids. She admits she strangled her 3 children with exercise bands on January 24th, 2023. But her defense team has said from the jump, it's not murder. They say Lindsay was suffering from postpartum psychosis and was in the midst of a mental break at the time of their deaths. For that reason,
The facts are not in dispute. Lindsay Clancy admits she strangled her 3 children, 5-year-old Cora, 3-year-old Dawson, and 8-month-old Callan, with exercise bands on January 24, 2023. But the defense has entered a plea of not guilty by reason of mental illness. Their argument: postpartum psychosis, a mental break, a brain that had ceased to recognize reality. So the question before this jury is not who did it. The question is whether the woman who wrote those diary entries knew what she was doing, or whether the words themselves were evidence of a mind already gone.
Testimony about 8-month-old Callan Clancy's autopsy, and jurors were shown graphic images of the procedure. Lindsay herself was taken out of the courtroom sobbing.
In terms of the marks around Callan's neck and the petechiae around his eyes and face, did that give you an indication here of the mechanism of death for Callan?
Yes, it is consistent with
The medical testimony left nothing to the imagination. 8-month-old Callan Clancy's autopsy revealed linear abrasions around his neck and petechial hemorrhages above the ligature marks. The mechanism of death was ligature strangulation. The jury was shown graphic images of the procedure. Lindsay Clancy was removed from the courtroom sobbing. And then something happened that tells you everything about how this trial is being fought.
Defense attorney Kevin Reddington says he does not want to go to sidebar. He wants it on the record that the prosecution allegedly commented under their breath, "Shut her up," as Lindsay Clancy cried during autopsy testimony. Now, my photographer was in the courtroom for all of this. He's the one who shoots the video that you see, whether it be on Law and Crime or literally anywhere else. There's only one camera that's allowed to record video, and it's him. Now, he's been court ordered. Whether there's a recess, a break, there's a sidebar, he's got to go to the seal. And as soon as a recess is called, he goes to the seal and he has to cut.
Defense attorney Kevin Reddington stood up and made an extraordinary allegation. He claimed that during the playing of that autopsy testimony, while Lindsay Clancy wept, someone on the prosecution team muttered under their breath, "Shut her up." Reddington refused to go to sidebar. He wanted it on the record. The courtroom photographer, the only camera operator permitted, had been ordered to cut audio during recesses. But the defense alleged the comment was made before the mic went dead. The prosecution's faces reportedly showed surprise. The DA's office later reviewed the tape and claimed the phrase was, "Shut it off," referring to the camera. The judge issued no warnings. Just an ultimatum: any inappropriate comment and you are out. No yell around.
I just want to make it real clear that there is to be no inappropriate comments or disruptive comments to be made inside of this courtroom. If anybody is found to make those, they will be immediately escorted out and barred for the balance of this. All right, I just want to make that real clear. And just in case you're wondering, there are microphones all around. And so if I get a report of that, there's going to be some serious issues and serious problems. So I just kind of wanted to put that out for everybody so it's crystal clear. There's going to be no warnings, no yellow cards. You're out.
I just want to make it real clear that there is to be no inappropriate comments or disruptive comments to be made inside of this courtroom. If anybody is found to make those, they will be immediately escorted out and barred for the balance of this. There are microphones all around. No warnings. You're out. The message was delivered. Whether the hot mic captured, shut her up, or shut it off, remains unresolved. But the allegation itself split the courtroom in two.
As you sit here, you don't know what her core body temperature was?
I saw her 3 years ago. I see about 200 patients a
I'm
month.
sure you're very busy, but this is a murder trial, doctor. Did you review your records and your notes?
I'm happy to look at my record if you bring it there.
Did you review your records and notes before you came in here today to testify on this case?
The defense then turned its fire on the medical witnesses. A doctor who treated Lindsay at South Shore Hospital faced a cross-examination that was surgical in its precision. As you sit here, you don't know what her core body temperature was? I saw her 3 years ago. I see about 200 patients a day. I'm sure you're very busy, but this is a murder trial. Doctor, did you review your records and your notes? Sorry, I did, but I don't have a photographic memory. The point was made the prosecution's own witnesses could not speak to Lindsay Clancy's state of mind with certainty. And then the Commonwealth countered with a moment they believed showed clarity.
Did you have a system that you could use to communicate with her?
Yes, board. We have a whiteboard or clearboard that sometimes patients can write on.
Did you observe her to utilize that whiteboard to write on it?
Yes.
And at this point, when she's writing on the board, her eyes are open and she's responsive.
Yes.
And she's able to tell you how she's feeling, correct?
Yes.
And fair to say she used that whiteboard to tell you she was confused and that she couldn't feel her lower extremities.
Yes.
On this particular night, the second, she made a request of you for her lawyer, correct?
Yes.
Was that something she had asked you before?
No.
And so did you think it was something worth noting?
Yes.
Why would you note something like that?
2 days after her suicide attempt, while still intubated, Lindsay Clancy communicated using a whiteboard. The Commonwealth highlighted that she wrote down a question. Do I have an attorney? Not, where are my children? Not what happened. But, do I have an attorney? The witness noted it was significant. It was the first time she had referenced the case at all. The prosecution wants you to see a woman aware enough to lawyer up. The defense wants you to see a woman so dissociated she could not feel her own legs. The paperwork already knew.
Yeah, she was saying that her parents were quite supportive to her, and that she was thinking that she would have to change her healthcare proxy from her husband to somebody else. And we didn't necessarily go into the reasons as to, why she would have to change it, but she explained that she was very close with her parents. They would see each other frequently, given that they lived in close geographic proximity, and that she felt that they were very supportive to her and would have her best interests in mind should we need to invoke the healthcare proxy, or that if she couldn't make her own medical decisions.
So was there a concern on her part that her husband wouldn't have her best interest at mind at that point in time?
And then the whiteboard revealed something else. Lindsay Clancy asked to change her healthcare proxy from her husband Patrick to her parents. She explained that her parents were supportive, that they lived close, that they would have her best interests in mind. The prosecution asked, was there a concern on her part that her husband wouldn't have her best interests in mind at that point in time? The defense objected, sustained. But the question hung in the air.
A DNR.
You made reference to the fact that she was changing her documents as far as healthcare proxy.
Yes.
Did you know anything? Did you know who she was changing it from, her husband to her mother and father, or did you know anything about the specifics?
She was changing it from Patrick to her parents.
Thank you. And finally, what is a DNR?
DNR means do not resuscitate.
Do you know what her DNR was?
Her code status was full at the time that I took care of her.
Do you recall that she had indicated repeatedly that she wanted a DNR, that she did not want to be resuscitated? if emergency arose.
The defense used this moment to pivot to another request Lindsay made repeatedly in those hospital days, a DNR. Do not resuscitate. She did not want to be brought back if her heart stopped. The nurse confirmed the initial response. Her code status was full at the time that I took care of her. But the defense pressed. Do you recall that she had indicated repeatedly that she wanted a DNR? The nurse had not been privy to that knowledge. What emerges is a portrait of a woman who, the moment she regained consciousness, sought legal counsel and tried to ensure no one could save her life.
You're familiar with the concept of postpartum psychosis, correct?
Yes.
And you know that people can communicate and plan and act on plans even if they're in the middle of a psychosis, right?
Yes.
You don't have to be drooling and stumbling and unable to walk and talk to be in a psychosis, do you?
No.
So in other words, a person can be in a psychosis and can communicate to friends, family, people, talk, correct?
Then the defense extracted a crucial concession from a prosecution witness, a psychiatrist. You're familiar with the concept of postpartum psychosis, correct? Yes. And you know that people can communicate and plan and act on plans even if they're in the middle of a psychosis, right? Yes. You don't have to be drooling and stumbling and unable to walk and talk to be in a psychosis.
Do you? No?
So in other words, a person can be in a psychosis and can communicate to friends, family, people, talk, correct? The prosecution's own expert confirmed that the ability to form sentences and write questions on a whiteboard does not rule out psychosis. This is the core of the defense. The appearance of normalcy is not the absence of madness.
Would you agree with me that one of the things that her blood reflected or that she was on was trazodone?
Yes.
And can you tell me what trazodone is?
Yeah, trazodone is an antidepressant medication. It's more often utilized as a sleep.
And then came the medication list. Trazodone,
Diazepam, Buspirone, Wellbutrin, hydroxyzine,
Klonopin, Lamotrigine, Prozac,
Remeron,
Seroquel, Amitriptyline,
Ambien.
13 psychiatric medications prescribed between September 2022 and January 2023, 4 months. The psychiatrist confirmed that many of these drugs carry a black box warning for increased suicidality. The defense asked, "It's an awful lot of drugs to be prescribed in 4 months, isn't it?" Objection. Sustained. But the list was already in the jury's mind. The Commonwealth countered that Lindsay was not on all of them simultaneously and had taken very small amounts of some, none of others. But the sheer volume of prescriptions painted a picture of a medical system throwing chemicals at a crisis it did not understand.
In reference to counsel's comment about just 3 medications that she was on prior to trying to commit suicide, you're not aware of the doctors telling her to discontinue this medication, start a new medication, go on to a different medication, depending on the doctor. You're not aware of that, right?
No.
And finally, if you know, did she sign a DNR, do not resuscitate?
She asked to the day after the first evaluation that I did of her, which was the capacity assessment to change her healthcare proxy. But in the context of her reporting a serious suicide attempt, we did not change her code status. We continued to chat with her about that, and she ultimately came to the conclusion that it made sense to make sure that her mental health was stable before she considered her code status.
Okay, but her initial reaction or her conversations with you all was that she wanted to have a do not resuscitate.
The defense returned to an even darker detail on recross. Lindsay had told her husband she was having thoughts of hurting the children. Homicidal ideation, telling your husband that you're having thoughts about hurting your children. That's something you consider, isn't it? Yes. And when she regained consciousness in the hospital, her first instinct was to request a DNR. She wanted to die. She believed she deserved to die. The doctor confirmed she ultimately agreed to stabilize her mental health before changing her code status, but the initial impulse was clear.
Alleged psychosis.
Those first few pages, just highlighting page 1, you reviewed these handwritten entries, and at some point in this paragraph, it says, obsessed with his sleep and nap schedule like to the minute. It says, hearing him cry for 1+ hours and not intervening just about killed me. I even said the words, "I want to die" to Pat while he was crying. After that, I became obsessed with his sleep and nap schedule, like to the minute. That's one of the entries you reviewed and noted.
I would also drive him around for car naps for hours every day, feeling guilty for doing this to my baby. Do you recall making that notation?
Yes.
I also feel guilty we did it too young, parenthesis, 1 week shy of 4 months, end parenthesis, right?
Correct.
You also noted in your report that I also, quote, I also feel like I did it wrong because I did it when he was overtired, so I made it harder. I now have horrible insomnia and anxiety, which is causing depression. I have no appetite. I don't know what's wrong with me. I want help.
But nothing in this trial has landed with more force than the diary entries themselves. Read aloud in court in Lindsay Clancy's own words, obsessed with his sleep and nap schedule like to the minute. Hearing him cry for 1+ hours and not intervening just about killed me. I even said the words I want to die to Pat while he was crying. I now have horrible insomnia and anxiety which is causing depression. I have no appetite. I don't know what's wrong with me. I want help. I want to be well. The words are not those of a woman plotting murder. They are the words of a woman drowning.
And there were a number of other entries that you put in your police report about that. One of which was that I feel horribly guilty about my marriage. I want to connect with Pat again. I know he needs it. I need it. I'm terrified because I'm terrified of the relationship. She needs to get birth control first. She made reference to her inability to have conjugal relations with her husband, right?
I believe so.
She indicated further on into her travels, I am completely overwhelmed trying to take care of the kids. I'm drowning every day. I feel guilty that I'm spending my family's money and not making any. I feel like I spend way too much. She wrote that, right?
Correct.
The journal entries also reveal a marriage under immense strain. I feel horribly guilty about my marriage. I want to connect with Pat again. I know he needs it. I need it. I'm terrified of the relationship. I am completely overwhelmed trying to take care of the kids. I'm drowning every day. I feel guilty that I'm spending my family's money and not making any. This is not a prosecutor's narrative of a controlling perfectionist who eliminated her children because they disrupted her plan. This is a woman documenting her own disintegration in real time. The paperwork already knew.
And did you have any concerns about her interacting with the children?
None at all. She was a wonderful mom.
And at one point, do you recall saying to the trooper, I loved my Lindsay?
I loved my Lindsay.
Yeah.
I don't recall saying that.
Okay, did you?
Do I love Lindsay?
Yeah.
I did love Lindsay, yeah.
When the Clancy family's former nanny took the stand, the courtroom shifted. Did you have any concerns about her interacting with the children? Not at all. She was a wonderful mom. The photographer in the courtroom reported that multiple jurors wrote in their notebooks the moment those words were spoken. A prosecution witness, called by the Commonwealth to build a murder case, had just testified that Lindsay Clancy was a wonderful mother.
How did she get there?
I drove her.
And do you remember dropping her off?
Yeah.
Do you remember what her state of mind was to go there? Was she scared? Was she happy? Was she?
I think she was scared.
Do you remember what you did that day?
But the trial has not only been about Lindsay Clancy's mind, it has also become, in the court of public opinion, a trial of her husband Patrick. When Lindsay was admitted to a mental health facility on December 20th, 2022, Patrick drove her there. She was scared, and then he took their son Dawson skiing. The defense has used this relentlessly. If Patrick truly believed his wife was a danger to herself or her children, why did he leave her alone? Why did he go to New York for work 2 months before the killings? Why did he take Cora to San Diego immediately after returning? The seed of doubt has been planted.
Clancy may have actually killed the kids. People are pointing to alleged inconsistencies in his story, or the fact that his shoes and jacket seem to have changed between the trip to CVS and the drive to the 3B restaurant. Above all, there's the rumor, and I have to emphasize rumor, that Patrick Clancy was having an affair before the children were killed. A lot of people are questioning what he was doing in New York leading up to their deaths.
You mentioned that you went to New York in November of 2022. Defense counsel said that was a month before the children were killed, but that's actually 2 months before they were killed, correct?
Online, the speculation has curdled into conspiracy. Surveillance footage shows Patrick at CVS wearing boots and a half-zip jacket. Minutes later, at the restaurant, he appears in tennis shoes and a full zip jacket. Rumors of an affair swirl around his trip to New York in November 2022. He has since remarried a woman who lives in New York. The internet has drawn its own conclusions, but the jury has not been shown any evidence of an affair. No charges have been filed against Patrick Clancy. His testimony lasted only a few days, and he has not been in the courtroom since.
And in terms since Andrea Yates, and I feel like people are so angry about what happened. These 3 beautiful children, they're watching the testimony every day and they're directing their hate towards Patrick. They're coming up with conspiracies. They're looking for any little thing to make him seem like, oh my gosh, was he having an affair? Was he doing this? Was he doing that? if I had to give my own personal opinion, I truly think that this was a busy father. I mean, Patrick was 34 at the time his children were murdered. Lindsay was 32. They had 3 kids under the age of 5, both working. I mean, Lindsay was working during her pregnancy. She wasn't working at the time, but they were, both professionals, and they were living this super busy, intense life. And I think that he was doing the best that he could. He said on the stand he hadn't heard of psychosis until Lindsay. He had no idea about postpartum psychosis or any of this stuff. He was just taking her, here and there.
What do we actually know? Patrick was 34, Lindsay 32, 3 children under 5, both working professionals, a husband who, by his own admission, had never heard of postpartum psychosis until his wife was diagnosed. He said on the stand that he was doing the best he could. And the question that now hangs over this entire trial is not simply whether Lindsay Clancy was psychotic. It is whether the system around her, her doctors, her marriage, the medications, the missed signals, failed before she ever picked up those exercise bands. What if the warning was written down in her own handwriting months in advance and nobody asked, nobody answered?
Stipulations. Well, now that their case isn't going as well as they thought it would be a slam dunk, that this would just be a cut and dry case, that Kevin Reddington is showing all of these, amazing sides of Lindsay. We're getting some great testimony that she was a wonderful mother, that people are saying the prosecution is not doing well, and that the defense is doing a very good job at showing the type of person that everybody said Lindsay was, even initially after this happened, and they could not believe this absolute tragedy.
We're still early on in the case. We're still in the Commonwealth case at the time of this recording. So there's still a lot ahead. I mean, this weekend I was hanging out with friends and they were saying, if something happened, I would hire Kevin Reddington. I mean, he's putting on an amazing defense and the prosecution has a lot of evidence and witnesses too. So I guess we're going to have to wait and see. It's really up to the jury in the end.
The court of public opinion has already begun to render its verdict. Many online believe the prosecution has no case, that the defense is dismantling the Commonwealth's narrative witness by witness. But only 12 people in that Massachusetts courtroom will decide the legal fate of Lindsay Clancy. We will be watching every moment. In the meantime, we want you to go read the actual journal entries yourself. The full exhibits entered into evidence are publicly available through the Massachusetts Superior Court docket for Commonwealth v. Lindsay Clancy. Look at her handwriting, read her words, and then tell us in the comments, do those pages read like the diary of a killer, or the last coherent record of a mind about to break? If you want to follow this case to its conclusion, like this video, share it, subscribe to Trial&Crime, and turn on notifications. Because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence.